Keiko O'Brien wants to visit her mom in Kumamoto. Joseph Cisco's aubergine stew is famous, and Jake Cisco sleeps with a baseball and glove. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk. We have something special for you. We are doing a Deep Space Nine deep dives starting right now with episode 1, Emissary, story by Rick Berman and Michael Piller, teleplay by Michael Piller, directed by David Carson. This was January 3rd, 1993. Of course, everybody knows this is a Nog episode. So Melissa Longo is here, classing up the joint.
Hi.
Yay.
1990, January 3rd, 1993. That was a happy birthday to me.
Yes.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy
That
birthday.
was a
You were
great-
zero.
I was
Yeah.
zero. No.
Maybe one or two.
Tee-hee.
So people you might be asking, well, what's this about? You just reviewed the entirety of Deep Space Nine. And yes, now that we've reviewed every single episode, we're going to go back, kind of do a deep dive every month on one of them in order, because, you notice things the second time. Once you've seen it, you kind of have a different perspective. You see different things, you notice new things, you have different ideas or conclusions, and you have different favorites, and things change. So we're going to be looking through all that. And in the next segment, we've got Mr. Armin Shimmerman joining us. That's Quark on Deep Space Nine, of course. So everybody stay tuned for that, because that's when the show gets really good. So
Yeah.
let's get into these deep dives, shall we?
Let's do it.
That's like what are those pools? There's like the shallow pool and the deep.
Yeah, I don't know. We're not going to go there.
I don't know. I don't even know. I guess it's called the deep section. What is that?
I'm not going to jump in
The
your pool
deep
right
end.
now,
The
right?
deep end. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm not going to jump.
Well, that depends.
Oh,
Jay, yeah.
get us started with the
you.
bang. Thank you.
Wow.
Sirach.
Thank you.
What a deal.
No, right away from the beginning, I noticed that JG was in this opening scene, right? That's JG as the Romulan captain? Yeah, and I said,
unmistakable
"Oh wow, I didn't
voice.
notice that." Yeah, look at JG. I didn't recognize that he was in the pilot. Like he was there from the beginning, and that was pretty cool. Kind of right away, that was the first. I didn't remember that kind of moment.
I'll tell you what kind of stuck out to me. One of the things, and I was hoping to ask you, Sirach, I know you were a young tyke, as evidenced by the fact that we see you as a young tyke in this episode, but hopefully you might remember this. And if not, then of course Armin can help us out in the next segment. But I did wonder, I mean, first of all, a 90-minute episode, but you would assume it's going to be 2 weeks, but it felt like it had to be even more than 2 weeks to shoot it, like 3, maybe 4, because there were so many different sets, so many different locations. It was so big budget. They actually spent the money to make Odo turn into a duffel bag and back and all that kind of stuff. But first of all the locations, Sirach, do you remember where the fishing place was? The fishing lake. That was probably your very first day shooting, right?
It was probably the first day shooting, if I'm not mistaken. I was thinking about that too, and I wanted to say 2 spots come to my head. One, I keep hearing the Disney Ranch. So I don't know if that's at the Disney Ranch, which I can't recall what it looks like to this day, so I can't really compare it and no.
I mean, there's one way up in north of San Francisco, but there may have been one down here as well.
Yeah, no, this was definitely in California. I mean, in Los Angeles shoot.
Yeah.
The other thing that kind of looked familiar to me was Griffith Park, and I felt like I could see the Griffith Park kind of mountains in the background. So I'm not sure which one it was. When Armin comes for the next segment, we can ask him if he remembers.
Well,
But yeah, that was the first and only time I've ever been fishing
so far. But the other thing I wanted to ask
Yeah.
you about that particular, cluster of scenes that were there is they clearly shot the moments with you and your dad on the holodeck, right? And
Yeah.
then later on in the episode, we see you being a prophet, right? So in my mind, I'm imagining that they shoot all these scenes in the holodeck, then they do lunch or you do a break, you change over, you do whatever. And then the second half of the day, or at least the second half of the shoot, the director is coaching you up saying, okay, now totally different way of delivering lines. You're going to be a prophet now. You're going to be asking questions in, this non-corporeal kind of way. But clearly this has got to be all in the same day and they have the same outfits and the same setups. Do you remember any of that? I mean, do you remember if one was before the other or any kind of coaching that came with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't remember what the direction was about when it comes to being one of these prophet angel type, that character. And I don't even know if my comprehension would have been able to understand I don't know how they explained that to me. They would be explaining it to me the way Cisco is trying to explain it to
Time.
to them in this episode. Exactly. Like I would be looking like, okay. And they're like, well, you're this wormhole prophet. Okay.
Yeah,
And, and he only exists in this space and you don't know what time is. And I mean, that would be a real accomplishment if I was able to comprehend that at that time, which I'm not going to take credit for. I'm not going to say I didn't either, because it depends on what the direction was. If the direction excluded that kind of, conceptualization, let's think about what this is about, and was more like a simplified version of, hey, it's not you, but it's a version of you that doesn't know this person as your father. And that would be probably the simplest way to kind of get me to give in dial up the performance that you need for that.
You know what stood out to me about your performance as a prophet was, one, you were my favorite prophet.
Yes. Not the rando baseball player that we hadn't seen before.
No, I mean, he was great too. I did like all of the prophets. But what I noticed about Jake Cisco, the prophet, was that you listened in a different way than the others listened.
He leaned in a bit.
And it was the way a child listens and absorbs information that they're getting, and I think sometimes children have the ability to listen better than adults do, and that's what I noticed about this on this rewatch. I was like, oh, he's so good, and he's so cute. Look at little Sirach. He's so cute.
Thank you, Melissa. Yeah, it's crazy because now watching it this many years since we started the first watch, my daughter is closer in age to where I was when we started. So I'm sure I'm about 13 in those shots, and she's 11 now. So it's really close. Like she's she's there almost in facial features and body, like facial expressions. Like, so there were certain expressions that I was making specifically when I was upset about the living arrangements, sleeping on the floor on that thin mat.
Can I say you delivered the best line, as in not the best line, but the best delivery of a line in that episode? And I don't know if I had noticed it before. It was when you right then when O'Brien says, oh, we can get you, whatever, you got a flat
field
mat,
rations.
whatever, field rations, right? And then you look at your dad and you go, Dad,
Right.
That's it. You know, a normal 13-year-old actor would just be like,
Love.
Dad, or, you know, something, but you really, man, you got that line. You understood it. And it made me laugh. Just that one word, the way you said it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I was kind of, I liked a few of the lines myself. And there were a few moments that I played where, you know, I felt like Cisco was trying to make me laugh. And, you know, like, you know, don't worry, we'll get over it. You know, things will be fine.
Like when he said,
And I was,
okay.
I
yeah,
love that.
yeah,
I love
when he
that.
did that. And I didn't laugh in response, right? It was like mocking me, irritated
Right.
me more, right?
Yeah.
Like how my daughter is. Like if I try to mock something she does, she'll give me the same exact face that I used in that moment. So, so I was like,
Great.
that's where that face comes from. That's my face.
I've seen that face before.
I've
Wow.
seen that face, and I'm
Wait till
not
she finds
playing
out
with
about
this.
wormhole aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see if she's a better prophet than I am, or that I was. But yeah, no, there was a few moments there. I did also like the way I kind of delivered the food replicator line to, and I was like, "Is this
Yeah.
the food replicator?" Like,
Right.
and O'Brien's like, it's kind of looks bad on him because he's checking us in, and this thing's on the fritz, so he's like, "Oh yeah, we'll fix that. It's not working right now." But so I thought that felt natural. I thought I did enjoy those moments there. I did like the okay line where Cisco makes fun of okay. And the other thing I thought was great too was, I know we'll get into this more, but uh, just like read this like Nog from the beginning. Like this is the pilot episode from the beginning.
Yes.
Like starts. This is how you're basically introduced to his character, and he's a criminal, right? He's a criminal, and kind of unapologetic about it. You know, he's committed to it. It's not like he was being dragged along into this thing. It looks like he's the mastermind.
Yeah, Melissa,
Yeah.
you know where I especially noticed how good of an actor Aaron was in the first shoot, the first day possibly, was when he looked scared, when he was caught and they were saying like, you know, he's going to be taken to the brig or something like that. And he didn't even have a line. He just had a look and he was just like conveying. I mean, it was perfectly conveyed. And I was like, wow, that's, you know, that's really good, especially through all that makeup and, you know, on a new set. It's pretty amazing.
Well, yeah, I noticed his physicality, the physicality that he put into the way he moved and not just hunched over, but it was like he was on guard and ready to go, kind of like a cat stalking its prey and, you know, ready to go. And then, well, and the hissing kind of goes along with that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I noticed that he's so natural in his delivery of nonverbal communication, which is it was wonderful to see, and it's always surprising. I don't know why, but he was so good. He was really talented.
Since day one there.
Other things jumped at me as well, though. Like now that I've watched the whole show, and I noticed how well Michael Piller and Rick Berman set up the story for what was to come for the following seasons. Basically, they really laid a solid foundation of what the storyline was going to be about. There's really not much deviation from where they start here to the final episode. It's exactly like check for check exactly where they said it's going to go.
Yeah, I
You're
agree.
the
It was like
prophet. Yeah,
it
yeah.
was like the first from the first feeling I got when watching this was that it was a show about family. And that was the last feeling I got on the last episode, that it was a show about family. And it was just this very clear, and like you said, this episode ends and we know exactly the direction that the show is taking. You know, we understand the characters. Everybody had a very good and easy to digest introduction. The characters were well defined. The story, that the conflicts that are to come were all very clearly defined. I thought it was just a fantastic pilot, and I always have.
Well, and one of the things that first jumped out at me was the camera work in the very beginning during the Battle of Wolf 359, and how shaky and chaotic everything was. And I thought that was a bold choice to open the episode, how to open the episode, because it kind of felt like this was the starting off point. This is where ground zero, where we begin. And it just gives us someplace else to go. Up to this point, Star Trek has felt very static in its camera work, but this was a lot different, that set the tone and the atmosphere of where this story begins. And I thought that was really wonderful.
Shout out to Marvin Rush for a lot of great shots.
But also, you know, other things I thought that were foreshadowed in very subtle ways. When Odo decides that he wants to come along on the trip because he gives the speech about his people and he doesn't know who his identity is, right? He said, my people could be over there. And he says it with this kind of like, this is the line, I'm drawing this line, you can't talk me out of it. I'm, you know, this is what I'm committed to. And Kira gives him a look where I felt like she's almost, it's a foreshadow look. It felt like it because now I know where it goes on, but it felt like she's looking at him like, I like that about you. Whatever you just did, there was something about it that she's like registering, like, I like this man because he's not afraid to speak his mind. He's not afraid to assert himself. You know, there were certain things that quality wise, and I felt like it was a subtle, just a real quick glance. I don't even know if it was written in there, but the camera definitely ended on the close up on her. And she just registered that like, okay, I can
respect
work with
that.
This guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can respect that.
Well, speaking of respect, we're going to have to take a break right now so that we can get a very respectable human in here. And our second segment is going to have Armin Shimmerman, everybody. So stick around. Don't touch that dial. Is that what people said?